the locking of Tharos. Before the maps were drawn, before the kingdoms had names, before the oldest stones learned how to hold the memory of footsteps, there was the war. Not a war of banners or borders, not a war of mortal hunger or mortal pride. It was the war of the gods. And in all the songs that survive the breaking of the world, no name is spoken with more fear than Tharos, the world-breaker. He was storm and ruin, fire beneath the mountain, thunder inside the sea cliff, the force that tears old things apart so new things may rise from their ashes. In the first days of Terravale, some called him beautiful. They saw in him the wildness of creation itself, lightning that split the dark sky for the first time, volcanic flame that birthed fresh land from the deep, the violent pulse that made the world feel alive. But where the others shaped, Tharos demanded. Where the others nurtured, Tharos tested. Where the others loved the world, Tharos loved what it could become if broken. For an age uncounted, the gods endured one another. Sundering, radiant king, built law from chaos and taught mortals to stand upright beneath the sun. Ilaris, verdant mother, softened the harsh earth and covered stone with root and blossom. Nimera, Lady of the Vale, kept the night from becoming terror and made mystery into a gift instead of a wound. And Velkor, Keeper of the Deep, watched in silence from the unseen places below all things, saying little, remembering everything. But Tharos grew restless. He looked upon cities and saw weakness. He looked upon peace and saw stagnation. He looked upon mortals praying to the sky and the field and the sea, and he asked a question none of the others wished to hear. What right had such fragile things to inherit a world made by gods? So he descended beneath the roots of mountains and into the buried places where the bones of creation still burned. There, in a chamber no mortal eye was ever meant to see, he found the living core of divine making, the heart fire. It was not flame as mortals know flame. It had no smoke, no fuel, no end. It was possibility itself, bright enough to birth worlds, hungry enough to unmake them. When Tharos touched it, all of Terravale felt the wound. The seas rose. The forests shook loose their leaves. The stars dimmed for a single breath. And the other gods knew the war they had feared had begun. The first battles shattered the edges of the world. Tharos crossed the skies in a crown of storm, dragging chains of lightning behind him. Mountains burst open beneath his step. Rivers flashed to steam. Great halls built by Sundring's first disciples were reduced to white dust and molten glass. Every place he struck became a lesson. Nothing made by steady hands could endure the hand that loved destruction. Sundering answered first. He met Tharos above the high reaches where day first touched the world, clad in armor wrought from dawnlight and oath. Their clash lit the heavens so brightly that mortals on the far side of the world believed a second sun had risen. Blade met flame. Law met fury. For 7 days they fought above the peaks, and where Tharos's fire fell, cliffs melted into black stone. Where Sundring's light struck, the storm split and bled gold across the clouds. But Tharos would not yield, he only laughed, and the laugh was thunder. Then came Ilaris. She rose from the wounded earth in robes of green and root and river, and every place her feet touched bloomed despite the ash. She called forests up like armies. Great vines climbed the burning slopes and wrapped the broken mountains in living coils. Beasts older than language answered her cry. They crashed against the storm like waves against a fortress. Still Tharos advanced. He burned the green from valley and branch. He called fire from inside the stone. He tore whole hills from the ground and cast them into the sky. He was no longer merely fighting the gods. He was teaching the world to fear his name. Nimera entered the war last, because Nimera understood what the others did not. That force alone could not defeat a god who drew strength from catastrophe. So she wove the night around him. She cloaked battlefields in dream and shadow. She split his path into 1,000 false horizons. She turned his own fury against phantoms and made certainty into a stranger. Warriors under Sundring's banners slept and woke with visions of victory. Tharos's lesser servants walked blindly into chasms they had believed were roads. For a time it seemed the balance might yet be restored. But below all the chaos, beneath every collapsing temple and every flooded plain, Velkor watched. He did not rise. He did not speak. He went deeper. The war reached its worst in the place now called the Ashen Expanse, though in those days it was a living kingdom of rivers, citadels, and terraced hills. Mortals had built there under Soloren's blessing, and Ilaris had made the valleys rich beyond measure. It was a jewel of the old world. Tharos chose it as his answer. He descended with the heart fire burning in his chest like a stolen star. No song agrees on what happened first. Some say the sky split open. Some say the ground did. Some say all sound fled the world for a moment before the ruin began. But every telling speaks of the same horror after. Fire that did not stop. Lightning that struck upward from the earth. Stone that flowed like water. Water that burned like oil. Soloren came in wrath. Ilaris came in grief. Nymera came in silence. And for the first time since the world's beginning, the four gods of order fought together not to preserve Terravale, but merely to save what could still be saved. They drove Tharos back across the broken kingdom, and every league cost the world another scar. Ilaris raised walls of root only to see them char to cinders. Soloren split the clouds and pinned Tharos beneath spears of radiant fire, only to watch him tear himself free in showers of magma and storm. Nymera bound his sight in veils of black moonlight, but he answered by calling the heartfire's glow so fiercely that shadow itself retreated. Then, from the sea beyond the burning coast, Velkor finally rose. Not in rage, not in glory. He rose like judgment. The waters gathered around him in walls higher than mountains. Entire fleets vanished beneath the dark of his passing. The smoke-choked sky reflected in his form until he seemed made of night itself, crowned with foam and abyssal light. He said no word at all. He simply lifted one vast hand, and the sea obeyed. A wave crossed the land. It extinguished cities already dying. It swallowed armies and shrines and fields alike. It slammed into Tharos with enough force to carve new canyons through the earth. Steam rose so thick the sun vanished. For the span of many heartbeats, none could see what remained. When the veil of boiling mist finally broke, the kingdom was gone. In its place stretched a wasteland of black glass, smoking fault lines, and endless ash. The other gods had halted Tharos' advance. But the price was an entire realm erased. That was the moment they understood the truth they had refused until then. If the war continued, there would be no world left to win. So the gods withdrew from battle, not in surrender, in strategy. They gathered in secret at the Gate of First Light, the oldest threshold in Terravale, where the world was still thin with divine memory. Were sent away. Fires were dimmed. Even the winds seemed to step back from the council. There they spoke not of victory, but of imprisonment. Soloren wanted Tharos broken and cast beyond the stars. Ilaris wanted the heartfire severed from him, that the world itself might heal. Nymera warned that no prison made by force would hold forever, because fury always remembers the shape of its chains. And Velkor, quiet as the trench, offered what only he had understood. The world had already been wounded in two directions. Upward in the sky, where the violence of divine power had torn open a scar above the tallest peaks. Downward in the deep, where the same violence had opened an abyss beneath the sea of mirrors. These two wounds were not separate. They were one rupture, stretched through the world from sky to sea. If Tharos could be bound between them, caught in the tension of opposing powers, then no single god would need to hold him alone. He would become his own lock. Soloren hated the plan. Ilaris feared it. Nymera mistrusted any chain built from a wound, but there was no better hope, and so the trap was laid. They chose the battlefield carefully, the highest reaches above the Skyreach Mountains, where the sky wound churned unseen behind cloud and storm. Soloren summoned every remnant of his light. Ilaris rooted the mountains to the bones of the world. Nymera spread a great veil over the heavens, hiding the field from mortal eyes and from Tharos' lesser heralds. Velkor withdrew again to the sea, where the abyss waited below. Then they called to Tharos, not with challenge, with truth. They let him hear of the gathering, let him feel the shape of their desperation. Let him believe this was the final stand of frightened rulers defending a world they no longer controlled. Tharos came gladly. He arrived as a cyclone of flame. Clouds were vaporized by his passing. Snow on the mountain peaks flashed to steam. Whole ridges cracked under the pressure of his descent. In his hand he carried a spear of condensed lightning. Across his shoulders rolled a mantle of smoke. In his chest the heart fire pulsed, brighter than ever, because he sensed what waited for him and mistook caution for weakness. "You have chosen your grave," he said, and the sky shook with the sound. Sundering stepped forward first, radiant and unbent. "No," he answered. "We have chosen yours." Then the last battle began. No mortal language was made for the things that happened next. Sundering struck like sunrise weaponized, every blow a line of law carved into chaos. Ilaris called roots up through naked stone, binding cliffs into living chains that wrapped around Tharos's limbs. Nymera turned the battlefield into a maze of false distance and fractured time, so that every step Tharos took required him to choose what was real. And, far below, unseen by all but the gods, Velkor moved beneath the sea, guiding tides and pressure and ancient current toward a single impossible purpose. Tharos fought, as if the ending of the world would prove him right. He shattered the first mountain Sundering hurled at him. He burned through Ilaris's forests before they could fully bloom. He roared Nymera's illusions apart and stained the clouds with ember-red storm. Once he drove Sundering to one knee with a blow so fierce that dawn failed across half the world for a full hour. But every moment he raged, the trap narrowed. The sky wound above them widened. The abyss below answered. Nymera saw it first. In the heart of battle, beneath all the fire and thunder, she felt the world becoming a bowstring. Ilaris heard and understood. She drove both hands into the mountain, and all Skyreach answered. Peaks tore upward like the teeth of a crown. Stone bridges rose between summits. Hidden veins of crystal blazed with green fire. The entire range became a lattice, a vast living framework around the place where Tharos battled Sundering. Then Velkor rose, not from the sea this time, from the world beneath it. Water surged upward through cracks in the mountains, through caverns and fault lines and buried rivers, until it burst from the stone itself. Torrents twisted into towering columns around the battlefield. They did not fall. They climbed, spiraling toward the heavens like chains made of ocean. Tharos finally understood. And for the first time in all the war, he looked afraid. He hurled the heartfire outward in a wave meant to annihilate everything. Mountain, sea, gods, sky, memory. Sundering met it with a shield of dawnlight. The shield shattered. Ilaris was thrown back, her hands burning where bark like skin charred black. Nymera vanished into shadow and reappeared kneeling, blood dark silver running from one eye. Even Velkor faltered, and the water column shook. But the trap held, barely. Tharos tried to break skyward. Sundering seized him. He tried to dive into the earth. Ilaris bound his feet in roots thicker than towers. He tried to blind the field in flame. Nymera wrapped the fire in a veil and fed it back into itself. He tried to tear the sea chains apart. Velkor closed both hands and the ocean became iron. Then Sundering shouted the oldest oath. Ilaris answered with the oldest name of the world. And Velkor gave no word at all, only will. The line between sky wound and abyss snapped tight. Light exploded upward. Dark pressure answered from below. The mountains screamed. A circle of land was torn free from the highest peaks and lifted into the air by the strain of the binding. It shattered into great floating fragments, turning slowly around the unseen center of the wound. Thus was born the broken crown. At its center hung one final piece of stone that did not spin. The isle that would one day be called Forbidden. And in the chamber of force between sky and sea, Tharos was caught, not slain, locked, bound in the living tension of world against world, wound against wound, storm against depth. The heartfire was ripped from full union with his will, and driven downward through the unseen chain, where Velkor descended after it into the abyss to contain what the others could not. Tharos roared as the prison closed. His fury shook islands from mountains, it split valleys, it sank cities. The aftershock of his confinement drowned one shining kingdom beneath the sea of mirrors and turned once green lands to smoking waste. But the prison held. The war was over. When the silence came, it felt wrong. No thunder, no divine clash, no forests burning, no temples collapsing into bright ruin. Only wind through broken stone, only ash falling like snow. Sundering stood upon the highest surviving peak and looked over the wounded world. His armor was cracked, his light was dimmed. For the first time since the making of dawn, he looked tired. Ilaris walked the ravaged slopes and touched what little still lived. Wherever her fingers passed, tiny shoots emerged through soot and fracture. She did not smile. Too much had been lost for triumph. Nymera went to the central aisle that hovered unmoving above the scar. There she placed a guardian of stone, light, and old command, the first sentinel to watch the lock and bar mortals from tampering with what even gods had nearly failed to contain. And Velkor did not return. He followed the Heartfire into the deepest trench where pressure, dark, and memory converge. There he took his place as its keeper, not as king and not as jailer, but as burden-bearer. While the others withdrew from the world out of wisdom or grief, Velkor withdrew because he could not leave, not anymore. Never again, they swore, would they walk openly among mortals in their true might. Never again would they allow pride, rivalry, or certainty to endanger the world so completely. They would become distant, dreamlike, heard in prayer, seen in omen, felt in miracle, but no longer seated upon thrones within reach of men and women who still bled and broke beneath the consequences of divine war. Then they were gone, and the Age of Echoes began. Yet locks are not the same as endings. Even now, sailors crossing the Sea of Mirrors speak of nights when the water glows far below, as though some hidden ember burns beneath leagues of black depth. Climbers in the Skyreach Mountains tell of storms that circle one place only, and of floating islands that turn around an invisible center with slow, patient purpose. Some claim that if you stand upon the highest ridge at dawn and look up into the heart of the broken crown, you can hear it. Not thunder, not wind, but a distant sound like chains pulled taut. And in the ashen expanse, where the land still remembers what it became to stop him, lightning sometimes strikes the same place again and again, as if trying to find a seam. The old priests say that is only the world remembering. The old sailors say the world remembers too well. The old mystics say that prisons weaken not because stone fails, but because memory does. So they teach their children the names. Sundering, who held the line. Ilaris, who bound the earth. Nymera, who closed the veil. Velkor, who took the burden below. And Tharos, who still waits where sky and sea are chained through the wounded heart of the world. For in Terravale, every calm sea may hide a fire beneath it.